Hey guys. Okay, this is a short demo video about carving your plexiglass plate. We talked about it a little in class, but I just wanted to give you a few more tips and tricks about it, and also we can look at it really close up so that you can see what's actually happening when you take your scribe and actually carve into the plate. We're going to look at it really close up. Remember that when you come back to class on September 15th, you should have all 3 of your plexiglass plates carved and ready to print. And then I'll demonstrate how to print your plexiglass. Okay, so let's get to it. All you really need for this project is your 3 plexiglass plates and your twisted scribe. That's that sharp metal instrument in your kit. I'm also going to be using those Xerox copies, those printouts that I showed you, and a Sharpie marker, but you don't absolutely need to do that part. You'll see why. Remember your plexiglass plates, when you take them out of the cardboard packaging, have that plastic wrap on them, and you should take both sides of plastic wrap off of the plexiglass plate. You're going to notice that one side is sort of frosted. We're going to use the other side, the super shiny side, for our etching. The first thing that I would recommend you do is to tape down your whatever you're using to draw from and your plexiglass plate onto something. I would suggest that you tape it onto something that you can move around. Like I'm taping it on this drawing pad, and you'll see why in just a minute. I'm also, when I started my drawing in class, I was using that selfie that had me and 2 other people in it. I'm actually gonna switch, even though I started carving that, I'm gonna switch to this other drawing that I think is sort of more interesting. And I'm just gonna use that same plate and put that part that I started drawing kind of in an area of the plate that is gonna be pretty dark anyway. It won't really matter. So I go ahead and tape down the drawing and tape down the plexiglass. Again, I'm taping it on something that I can move around still, and you'll see why in just a minute. And then I just start to carve. You're going to use that pointy end of the twisted scribe, that's that sharp metal instrument, and you're just going to start scraping into the plate. Almost, you hold it like a pen, and you scrape just like you're using a pen. You're just sort of scraping lines into your plate. Remember that everywhere you see white, if you've drawn a white line, that means you've scraped into the plate, and that line is going to print black. You can use your twisted scribe, but you can also use things like sandpaper to get sort of a tone over the whole thing. Basically, anytime you put a texture into that plexiglass plate, you're gonna be getting a tone from it, like a black line, or in the case of sandpaper, you're gonna get this sort of like hazy gray tone. So in my etching, I mainly use the scribe, the tool, but I also used a little bit of sandpaper, kind of like in the sky area. You'll also notice that I drew with, somebody asked this in class too, I drew with a Sharpie some lines on my plate. The photograph was a little vague, and so I'm drawing some lines to kind of remind myself the sort of shapes that I want to make with the scribe. In some ways, the photograph is less detailed than I'll be able to get with the tool, so I was just giving myself some kind of direction for when I'm going over it with the scribe. And then it's just a matter of beginning to make your marks, beginning to etch in all of your marks. It's a long process. Your hands might get sore while you're doing it, but it's just really a matter of sticking with it and kind of, making marks over the whole surface. The deeper and closer together your marks, the darker the etching will be. The lighter and further apart your marks are, the whiter your paper will be. You'll notice as I'm drawing, I'm moving the whole board around, not just my etching plate, but the whole board that I'm working on. That's because in some ways it's easier to make a mark in the direction, like pulling the tool toward you. That's the easiest direction to make a mark. So what I do is I always position the cardboard so that I'm pulling the tool toward me. And that just makes it a little easier than if the paper was totally stationary, or if the plate was totally stationary. At some point, as you're drawing, you might want to take your entire plate and put it on a dark surface. That way you'll see what you're getting more clearly than when it's over a white piece of paper or when it's over the, like if you're using a picture or a drawing to draw from. You can see here that when I put it over the a black surface, those white lines stand out more and I can sort of tell what I'm getting. In a way, it's a negative of what I'm gonna end up with. Remember, because it's white lines on a black background, and I'm gonna end up with the opposite of that. But you can sort of tell, like, those real light white areas, those are gonna be real black. And then the areas where there's no marks, those are gonna be real white. And remember, like we did in class, if you're curious about what you're getting in positive, you can always rub charcoal into it to see what you're getting. I would recommend sort of doing that only in like a small section, but that's a possibility as well. And that's the gist of it. You're gonna make 3 plates, one of each of your sort of stages of the selfie, like we talked about in class. But I think you should have all 3 of those plates carved and ready to print on September 15th. And that's it. That's your assignment.